I think I'm live. I am live. Hello everyone. How are we doing? Welcome to the first in what I'm planning on doing. Well, obviously with sprint qualifying coming in for a few races, this would be qualifying, but only for a few races. So just a little pre-race chat really. And I do my quali streams on Saturday, and then Monday we do the post-race. But how are we doing everyone? Hello Glenn Goda, Charles, David, Connor, Martin, Rosaline, Brian, AMK, Raidery, Alexander, Finn, the English kid, I must pronounce that, Thinglish, great, Medard, Carlos, Henry, Neds, Scratch, Les, Radion, Valentin, Hayden, Alvi, Melena, Isaac, Owen, there we go. How are we doing everyone? Welcome. What are we thinking? Has everyone been I've watched a bit of FP2. I'm not one for investing too much of my Friday into practice sessions typically. I'll kind of keep an eye out. Obviously I watch the highlights, see what's gone on, but obviously Lewis put it top of FP2, which is what he does. Does anyone want to see Minton? I'll go grab Minton as well. Come on mate, come say hello. Come say hello. He wasn't ready. He wasn't prepared for me to grab him, bless him. Yes, I will be streaming tomorrow too as well, don't you worry. For quali. That's the norm. Minton wasn't too impressed. Nikita didn't spin. I know, right? He locked up, but he didn't spin. Am I British? I mean, nah, I'm Paraguayan. Gasly looked strong today. He did. Gasly's been looking very strong throughout. He's been a bit unlucky, Pierre. But what I want to do with this, again, obviously for my quali streams, the post race, I've kind of got a format. For this, it's more just kind of we'll look at how FP2 went, because that will give us a bit of an idea maybe. But then both Alpines looked pretty strong in FP2. Now I know they're meant to have brought some upgrades, but I don't know how much. I don't know if that's actually representative. Let's just say that. Big up Paraguay. There you go. So, but yeah, shall we first of all have a little look? Minton, what are you doing, mate? This is not very comfortable for me or for you, surely. You gonna stay there? Okay. Yeah, cool. All right, sweet. Thanks, dog. Right, so let's get the old screen share. Boom. Already set up. Look at that. One step ahead. Beautiful. So obviously Lewis put it top. From Max, Valtteri, Carlos up in P4. Fernando and Esteban 5 and 6 in the Alpines. Charles 7th, Danny 8th, Lance 9th, Sergio 10th, Pierre 11th, Lando 12th, George 13th, Yuki, Seb, Kimi. And then, who else? Giovinazzi, Schumacher, Latifi Mazepin. Which, you know, I mean, I guess I'm reluctant. This is the thing, this is why I don't tend to watch too much into practice, look too much. What I'm thinking is I'll probably just go through each team and just have a little waffle. Me being organised, no, never. That's the point. It's just chill, you know. Mazepin over 2 seconds off Mick. Yeah, least said about that, the better. Lando was having a lot of system issues with the car today. Well, we know he's got the pace, but again, certain tracks are going to favour certain cars. It's interesting to see like how much of this pace from the Alpines is actually representative. Like maybe they're going to be really good on this track. I can't remember at Portimao last year. How did actually? That's a good idea. Portuguese Grand Prix 2020. See if we can take any learnings from what happened last year, maybe. Probably not, but maybe. So let's drag this over here so you can see what I can see. So obviously Lewis put it P1 by, it was only two and a half tenths ahead of Max, to be fair, last year. Charles in the Ferrari as well was right up there. Oh yeah, of course he was. I remember that lap. Yeah, so Charles could be a bit of a dark horse shout here. We'll ignore this one. Carlos as well, pretty decent. This is last year, by the way, just so everyone knows. This is last year, how it all went down in quali anyway, and in the race, yeah, pretty standard. What we've come to expect, I think. Nothing too out of the ordinary here. Ocon P8, pretty good. But obviously we had that kind of dodgy start, didn't we? Everyone was slipping and sliding all over the place because of the resurfacing. But well, apparently, because I heard one of the commentators say that apparently Portimao was designed explicitly or specifically, however you want to say it, for F1 testing, I think, like initially, which was interesting. But it's a mad track. Like there was on the on the simulator at Veloce, Hayden was having a go in an F1 car on a Assetto Corsa around Portimao. It said like you can't. It's difficult to overestimate just how blind that track is. Like so often, it's crazy. It is crazy. But thoughts on new F1 sprint qualification? I did my little live stream on it, didn't I? So big up anyone who was in there for that. I'm still cautiously optimistic. I feel more positive than I do negative about it. Hello LCG, mate, good to see you. I feel more positive than I do negative about it. It's like anything, there's always pros, there's always cons. All in all, I think we need to see it. We definitely need to see it. Because like, if it works, if it does the job it's meant to do, then happy days. Like a bit more content for everyone to watch. I imagine that. I do wonder if they'll put. No, I suppose because a lot of tracks can't really be raced at night, can they? They were talking about because of the whole, people with issue of like people missing qualifying because of work and that they might try and push the quali sessions on Friday to like the evening, but I don't know if that's feasible at all tracks. Thoughts on Canadian GP cancellation? Shame, but Turkey is a great replacement. So you take away with one hand, but you give with the other, or whatever the saying is. I can't remember. It definitely isn't that. What are my predictions for the race? Bit too early to be. I usually save them till after qualifying, Jish. So I'll hold out on that one for the time being. Omri, happy birthday to your mum. Big up on Omri's mum. Chat, big up Omri's mum. But yeah, a soul for a soul. Yeah, I guess, yeah. That sounds like it's the kind of right thing. Similar kind of thing. But yeah, no, Turkey's a sound replacement, It's not like we're getting some peak track replacing it, like it's actually a good track. But anyway, let's go back to the long life timings. Should we start from what I think I want to start from the bottom and work the way up? Well, again, Haas, there's not really too much to say, is there? We know where they are. We know what their approach to this season is going to be. I don't think we can expect much, can we? Like, I don't think anything's going to change. There was a bit of a, I think, Schumacher was on a second push lap and Mazepin got a bit, like, was annoyed because he wasn't told. A little bit of tiny drama. But yeah, there's very little to say on Haas, isn't there? Very little to say. But Mick is consistently quicker, which is, look, so it's funny because coming into this season, obviously we knew that Mick won F2, Mazepin was like 5th. We knew that, you know, and most people would say, look, that Schumacher is the more complete driver for sure. But the size of this gap between the two of them has consistently been pretty big. And I think Mazepin's won F2 races. But then I suppose, in the same vein, the gap between Russell and Latifi, and I'm not so much talking about like race, I'm talking about like just pace, just like raw pace, because racecraft and all that kind of comes more with time, doesn't it? But like the gap between Latifi and Russell has been consistently big. Like, look, both of them, Russell ahead of Latifi and Schumacher ahead of Mazepin. We're talking, I know it's only practice, but we can still take some readings, and I think Schumacher and Russell were both levels above their teammates, who we know are there for reasons outside of raceability. That's just the way it is. But yeah, not much to say about Haas. And then obviously, as for Williams, I'm sure we've all seen George has been, what can I say? No, I think fair play to George. Seems to have taken some like accountability for what happened. Not necessarily the crash, because I still think the crash, for me, it was slightly more George's fault than it was Valtteri's. There was blame on both sides, but I do think George was more at fault personally. But it was more just George saying about the way he reacted afterwards. As soon as we knew they were both like all right, then, you know, kind of find the little tap on the head is quite funny. But I mean, he shouldn't be doing it, but at the end of the day, it's good meme content. So hopefully we won't have to be worried about this again, and George can just secure some points, because the Williams looking all right pacey. It's looking all right pace-wise. Definitely, they seem to have stepped up. I agree, Jish. Definitely seem to have stepped up a wee bit. How's my fantasy team looking? We'll check that actually. We'll check fantasy. I need to integrate fantasy league into my post-race, I think, streams that I do on the Monday, so we can have a little look at what's divulged. Because I'm doing all right on fantasy, but I'm just, if I'd turboed Norris instead of Gasly for the first two races, then I'd be in a much better place. But yeah, Alfa Romeos as well. They were looking pretty strong in FP1. I'm not sure what to make of the Alphas. I don't know. I don't really know what to make of the Alphas. They seem to be like, I think their race pace is alright. I don't think their qualifying pace is great, but I feel like they seem to have broken away from. But then I think Williams have taken a step up as well. It's hard to know how much of it is like, because it's all relative steps, isn't it? Williams seem to have taken a step up, but then that's just relative to Haas. So have they actually taken a step up, or have just Haas not done anything? And then Alfa Romeo have arguably taken an even bigger step up than Williams, because the Alfa drivers are very close. That's one thing you've got to say about Giovinazzi and Raikkonen. As much as whether you rate Giovinazzi or not, whether you rate Raikkonen right now or not, like they're close drivers. They're not like the Williams drivers or the Haas drivers where you've got a clear 1 and 2 in terms of pace. They're both, which fair play to Giovinazzi. Fair play to Antonio. Where did I get the cap? That was a gift from Hannah off of StockX. Bless. It's a nice cap. It's got the little the wreaths and that. I wish it was more of like a. It's like a. There's no. What's the word? There's no structure on the front here. I wish it was like more like a new era, like 940 cab or something. But can't win them all. I'm still happy with it. All right, Alfa Romeo. Yeah, so Alfa Romeo. I mean, the car's beautiful. Unfortunately, that hasn't added lap time, which is a shame. How was Ilott in FP1? He was alright, you know. He was okay. Can I just go? Let me just go on here and then. Practice 1. Yeah, I think Ilott was like 17th. Yeah, he was here. So he was about half a second off Kimi. Just under half a second off Kimi. And he had 21 laps. Yeah, well, he actually had one of the fewest amount of laps. Look, if you look down here, well, I don't think you can see this actually bit. Sorry, the way I've cropped it on the screen, you can't. But he actually had the fewest laps of anyone. It was a bit of a shame. Only 21 for Callum. Bless him. But yeah, I mean, we know that we know full well that if it was a meritocracy, then you know, Mick Schumacher's teammate would not be. I just dropped my lens. Would not be Mr. Mazepin, would it? Let's be real. But anyway, yeah, needs to practice. But lovely. Oh, hang on. Am I looking at the right one? What am I even on here? Yeah, Portugal 2021 practice results. Wait, what? This is different to the ones I was just looking at. Hang on a second. No, Lewis was quickest. What is this doing? Maybe if I just keep going back, then I'll go back to where I originally was. There we go. Okay, we're fine. We're back. All right, next team. Should we talk about if Haas gets sold, Mazepin is out the door? I only see Haas getting sold to Mazepin, Papa Mazepin. So, yeah. That's how I think it's going down, unfortunately. But anyway, next team, Sebastian, Aston Martin, generally speaking. Look, again, benefit the doubt. I think you look at the gaps between teammates at the moment, and this is, well, you've got Bahrain, which is a pretty calm track in terms of it's not as tricky a track as Imola or Portimao, and obviously that was the first track. So this is going to be a difficult one for Sergio. It's going to be a difficult one for Seb, for Daniel. Carlos seems to be taken to that Ferrari pretty well. I think better than any of the other new drivers in. If you ask me. Papa Mazepin looks the guy from Diantwood. Matt, that's actually a great shout. He does. Maybe if he was a bit like, yeah, but if Dimitri Mazepin was thinner and had some more tattoos, then he would. That's a great shout, mate. Phenomenal. I haven't had Diantwood for a long time. But yeah, it's going to be. I think it's just going to be another difficult weekend for Seb. I can't see it not being. We know he's still not comfortable with that car, and Portimao is a very, very difficult circuit. It's one of. I imagine Portimao is one of them that, if you're feeling really confident and comfortable in your car, this is great fun. Like, I think Pierre, I think Lando, I think the drivers who feel really hooked up with their machinery and feel really happy with the car underneath them, Charles probably to an extent as well, will do well here, have good fun. And I think those who aren't comfortable will really struggle, just because of how challenging a track it is. But we need to give these guys more time. We need to give, before we can really, you know, we can really like look too critically But Seb does need to turn things around. He needs to turn them around sooner rather than later, because there's only so long that we can go on making excuses. For real. Like, I really hope it pulls it out, because we know on his day the kind of pace that he has, and he's in a new car. It's a very different car to the Ferrari that he left. Very different car. And he wasn't happy in that Ferrari either. So it's like, it's difficult. It is difficult. I do hope he pulls it out. Lance seems to be doing a sound job. It's hard. It's difficult to rate Lance's performance, isn't it? Because, like, look, we don't consider Lance to be on the level of a lot of the other young drivers in F1 at the moment. Your Charles, your Landos, your Verstappen's, obviously. We don't consider him on that same level. So when Lance is putting it P9 and he's been in the points for the first 2 races this year, how much of that is the Aston Martin and how much of that is Lance? You know what I mean? So say, for example, I would be fascinated to know if Checo was still at Aston Martin, Racing Point, whatever you want to call them. Where do you think, if is a question, yeah, where do you think, right? So we've seen Lance has been on the end of the top 10, hasn't he? He's been like 9th, 10th, that kind of ballpark. And then Vettel's kind of been, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, that kind of area. Where would Checo be, do we think, in that Aston Martin? Because the problem is, it's very difficult to compare, isn't it? Because you've got Lance, who's not still, even though he's got his podiums, the consistency isn't there yet. But it seems to have been, so far this year, he seems to have got his head down and he's actually putting some banging performances in. But where would Perez be? Like, typical, and I'm talking like race, I'm not talking in this session specifically. So you reckon he'd be around 6th, 7th? So he'd be like right up there with the McLarens and the Ferraris, basically, is what most people seem to believe here. So again, if that is the case, then is this Aston Martin a bad car? Is it actually better than we think? Because this is what I think. So I think the Alpine is a worse car than the Aston Martin. But as a collective, I rate Alonso and Ocon above Stroll and Vettel. Because again, you've got Vettel, who's come off a very poor season. He's not known for his adaptability. He's still struggling to get on top of the car, which a lot of the new guys are, and that's fair. And then you've got Stroll, again, who's still a bit of a unknown prospect. We still don't know, like, Stroll's very good in the rain, he's very good off starts, I rate him more in race than I do in quali. And then you've got Alonso, who could drive anything fast because he's arguably one of the most adaptable drivers of all time. And then you've got Ocon, who had a solid end to the year last year, and I still think it's going to come good. I do. I think Esteban's going to push Fernando. I know a lot of people gave me a lot of stick when I suggested that Ocon might beat Alonso. I mean, 2 races in, Ocon's technically ahead of Alonso. So 21 more, and yeah. But I do think it'll be close. But I think, yeah, I just think that Aston Martin package. I think that partnership at the moment is one of the weakest driver partnerships, like in this moment in time, right now. But we'll see. No one's giving Seb a chance. Look, the thing is, like, I love Sebastian. I think he's a fantastic personality. But you have to look at a situation. Like, again, if you say you're a Seb fan looking at this, it's not nice to hear when your driver's not doing well, when people are criticising them. I know this from last year, okay? I know this very well, okay? Alex got more criticism than anyone last year, all right? I know this. I know it's not nice. But again, this is why people say to me, oh yeah, but you just think Alex should still be in the seat. I don't. I agree with Red Bull getting Perez in. You got to try and look at these things objectively, and there's been nothing to suggest yet that Vettel's been able to pass this corner, you know. And it's sad, and I just think that I really hope he pulls it out, but if he does, remains to be seen. I mean, again, I've gleaned on Alpine a bit. I have been very impressed with Fernando. I think Fernando and Carlos have been the two best new drivers in new teams, and Fernando's had 2 years out of sport, which says a lot. Like, is Perez a better replace for Albon? Just asking. Yes, of course, definitely, 100%. Of course he is. Albon, there's the Albon memes. I've missed them. I haven't seen them for a long, well, not long, but you know what I'm saying. It's been a while. I haven't seen them this year yet, so it's good to see them return. But yeah, I think it's difficult. I think that driver partnership's a strong one. Like, I just don't know where the Alpine pace is, you know? It's difficult. But I do think that they're going to push each other. I think Fernando will get more comfortable with that car as time goes on. I think it'll be close. I still think Ocon's going to edge it. And that, again, that's not discrediting Alonso. I just think Ocon's going to pull it out, you know? This is his second season at the team. I think they're going to do bits relative to their car performance. Just that car's not, like, the AlphaTauri's ahead of it, like, clear, if you ask me. What was my expectation of Checo in Portimao? I still got quite low expectations of Perez right now. We'll get onto it because it's a tricky car and it's a tricky circuit. But anyway, right. Next team, I won't go McLaren. We'll go AlphaTauri. Again, I've got so much faith in Pierre, and he's been unfortunate these first 2 races. You know, the first race, front wing fell off. It was just a bit of a misjudge from Pierre. It was his fault, I think, but it just ruined his race from the start. And then, what was it? The tyre strategy, wasn't it? At Imola. He was on hards and just falling back, and it was just a bit of a dead one, wasn't it? We didn't really get to see. He managed to come back through well, so he did demonstrate the pace. It was just a shame that it went off the rails at the start. And then obviously Yuki. Look, Yuki's very raw still. He's got that raw pace. I'm confident of that. He just needs to develop these other sides. He's a very emotional character. Like, we've all had a laugh at him swearing. Like, man, I mean, he swears more than I swear on Twitch, for crying out loud. And Yuki's definitely got the pace. Give him the time, it'll come good. I still think Pierre's going to come out ahead of him for sure. Absolutely, like, definitely. Just because Pierre's quality. I think Pierre's one of the strongest drivers on the grid right now. You feel the confidence emitting from him, you know. And the AlphaTauri looks quality as well. We haven't really been able to see Pierre have a clean race, or either driver have a proper clean race. I mean, Yuki's performance at, he was my driver of the day for Bahrain. Rookie performance, finishes P9. Phenomenal. I'm looking forward to seeing, because I reckon Pierre, as long as he has a clean one, he's going to be up there with the McLarens and the Ferraris. I've got no doubt. Pierre deserves a better seat than Alpha. I mean, I think you got to look at. It's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult that there is that kind of relationship with Red Bull and AlphaTauri, because clearly, it seems clear as day to me that the relationship between Pierre and Red Bull has kind of broken down. I know Pierre's said a few things about Helmut Marko's comments and dismissing them and that, and then how much to read into it, but I just think that relationship's broken down. But like, AlphaTauri are like a top end of the midfield team now, which I think is about right for, like, when you think you've got Lewis. Obviously, I don't think Valtteri's at the level. I've said this before. You've got Max and Perez in Red Bull, both quality drivers. You've got Carlos, Charles, Lando, Daniel. Like, Pierre, I think, in that team, take away the Red Bull affiliation and imagine it's just called AlphaTauri and it's just a separate team. It's an independent clothing brand. Then I think that's a perfect place for Pierre right now. But because of this relationship between the teams and the fact that it's the junior team and you're meant to make the step up, and Red Bull are going to want to use them 2 seats to foster their junior talent coming through, that makes it awkward. That makes it complicated now. Gasly's a top 5 driver in F1 today. I was thinking, look at all these names. You got Lewis, you got Max, seem clear top 2. Then you got Charles, you got Lando. Lando, like, maybe it's just form. I don't think it is. I know we haven't seen, like, but he's got to be up there in the conversation in terms of form drivers right now. For sure, Lando's there. Sergio, Daniel, Carlos on his day. It's Raikkonen on his day as well. It's impossible because they're not all driving the same car, so it's impossible to say. But yeah, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, AlphaTauri, good car. Just a shame that it's got that Red Bull link. And then on to we'll talk about McLaren. Obviously, Lando's form is phenomenal at the moment. Difficult. Someone said in the chat earlier he'd had some problems in practice, so I don't know. Sarah, they do love the French in France. It's true. I was just spitting facts, right? It's a good reference. I appreciate that. But yeah, I think McLaren's looking quality. Daniel's taken some time to get used to it. You got to remember, like, Daniel's had to go from, well, not had to, he's chosen to. He's gone from Red Bull, which is a very specific way that car's set up and very difficult car to drive, clearly, because since he left, no one's been able to jump in that car and look comfortable. Sergio might, but that remains to be seen. Then he went to Renault, which it took him at least half of the full season to start to get comfortable with that car, I felt. You know, under the brakes, I remember he used to talk a lot about the brakes. Just, he didn't have that confidence, that kind of, just that unconscious ability to just feel dialed in with the car. And now he's gone to McLaren, which is another complete setup. You know, he's had two years in between at Renault, and he's gone from 3 different teams. And obviously Carlos has done the same to an extent. He's gone through a few different teams. But yeah, like, it's going to take some time for Daniel. I do think he'll come good. I do think he'll push. I do think that driver pair is going to be arguably the strongest by like the middle of the season onwards, once Daniel's got fully comfortable with that car. Because again, you got to remember, less testing. That's why I think all of the new drivers have relatively taken a bit more time, you know. But yeah, Romanov, thank you for joining Friends of Tommo, mate. Appreciate you. Much love. So yeah, got that. And then yeah, Ferrari. I mean, Ferrari are looking good. Ferrari are looking decent, aren't they? Come on. Charles is looking quality as ever. And I think Carlos, mate. Carlos is looking strong already, which is mad. How quickly he seems to have adjusted to that car. And look, I'm sorry, Seb fans, but the fact that Carlos has jumped in and looked up there so quickly, that's it. That's all I'm saying. It's not a great look, is it? But yeah, Carlos, like, great shout. You know, obviously, you know, I called it last year, didn't I? In January last year, I was like, Ferrari gonna go for science. Daniel's gonna go to McLaren. You called me mad. Yet, it is what happened. Although Bottas didn't go to Renault, which is another one of my predictions. 2 out of 3 in that thumbnail turn it out. But yeah, Sainz is coming good. I remember when he was at like Toro Rosso and when he first went to Renault, I wasn't massively impressed. That was just when he went to Renault, that was when I just started to get back into Formula One. After I kind of longed it off for a few years. And he's, since that season at McLaren last year where he was quality, like, I mean, that move that Carlos did last year, was it or year, I can't even, you know, the one he did at Interlagos. We didn't go to Brazil last year, you know what I mean, 2019, when he slung it down the inside into turn 1, when he got his podium awarded afterwards in that mad race. That for me is like, that's when I think of F1 overtakes, that's one of them that just sticks in my mind, because that was such a sick move. Such a sick move. But yeah, Carlos very underrated. I think he's going to push Charles. And again, I think it's one of them that Carlos is going to push Charles to improve. Daniel's going to push Lando to improve. That's what you want to see, you know? All right, that's not done. And then on to, well, top 2 now. Red Bull. Now, obviously, Max is looking pretty hooked up in that Red Bull, innit? Seems to have the advantage in qualifying, which is great. It's lovely to see. Again, I think it's going to depend on certain tracks as well. It's going to vary. But yeah, Max is looking quality. Hooked up. As strong as he's ever looked. He's still only like 22, 23, isn't he? Which is ridiculous. Isn't he like 4 years younger than Giovinazzi? Which is mad. And that's not to hate on Giovinazzi at all. He's a solid driver, but he's no Max Verstappen. Yeah, I mean, if every race is as tight up the top as the first 2 have been, I'll be happy with that. I know Imola wasn't tight at the top. It would have been, but it was still dramatic, you know what I mean? Please turn off the... I'll actually, to be fair, this is probably a bit loud, isn't it? There we go. I'll turn it down a bit. And then Perez, again, we need to give Sergio more time. Definitely need to give Sergio more time. It's a tricky car to drive, as we know. And his first race is at Bahrain, which is going to keep recon, but that's his first race. And then Imola and Portimao. 2 of the most difficult tracks in this 23 race season. Like, no room for error on Imola. Quite narrow. Changeable weather. And then Portimao, undulation McGee, up and down. Like, it's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky. But again, I'm confident Sergio will come good. And look, he's already beat Max in qualifying, which is something that neither Alex nor Pierre could do. And that's what Red Bull want. So again, that's what I mean. As much as I hate to admit it, well, I don't hate to admit it because I like Sergio, I rate Sergio. But obviously from my Alex Albon fanboyism, I'd love to see Alex doing what Sergio is doing now. But he wasn't, and that's just the truth. Thank you, Retty. Oh, Retty, mate. Thank you for the £2, mate. Hannah's trying to get the stream taken down by playing copyright music in the background. Thank you, Hannah. We all heard you fine. Do I like Portimao? I love it. It's a great track. I'm glad it's hung about on the calendar. I'm well chuffed that it's hung about on the calendar. Stop being nice about Checo, you'll curse him. I don't believe in that stuff. It'll be fine. Checo will be fine. That's what I mean. We need to give them a few more races, all right? And then Mercedes. I mean, again, Lewis. I still think Lewis is going to win the title this year. I can't see my thoughts on that changing anytime soon, because I just believe that Lewis is always going to find that little bit extra to extract. And Mercedes have got their back against the wall, and I reckon this is going to push them to take another step up, because, you know, Toto's instilled a quality culture in at the team. And yeah, I still see Mercedes winning it, but I do see Max pushing for sure. Valtteri, again, I just don't think he's at the level. I think this has gone on for enough time now that I can look at the situation and make what I think is, you know, a good call on it, which is that he's just not at the level. He's a solid driver, but he's not top tier, which I think you need to be in a Mercedes. Thank you, Hixie, for joining Friends of Tommo. Appreciate it. Thank you kindly. And thank you, LCG, mate. Big up. Hannah, do you want to be on stream? Shall I switch the camera around? Then stop talking. Trolling me in the background, you little troll. Do I think Gasly will join Alpine? Alongside Esteban, probably. All French team. Maybe. That was what I said, didn't I? French master race at Alpine. But it just depends on, because we know that, I made this point before, like, Alonso's not the future, obviously, of that team, okay? He's going to be 40 in June. He's not the future, but he can do a very good job in the present. And someone dressed up the checkered flag. I guess, yeah, kind of am, aren't I? But yeah, it just depends on how long-term Alpine are thinking, because if Ocon has a good year and then Gasly's available, that's going to be a very compelling prospect to bring them two together. Because I definitely think they can make that work out. But can Sainz beat Charles? I think he'll beat him occasionally on some races, but I do think Charles will have the measure of Pierre. Because Charles has been... The one critique I have of Charles is that sometimes his decision-making isn't always the best, you know. His decision-making at times... It's difficult, isn't it? It's like a few times last year, well, throughout his F1 career, some of his decision-making has not been great, even though his pace is quality. And generally, his racecraft is really good. Carlos has just got that bit more experience. And sometimes, like, Charles will make a mistake, like at Sakir last year, when he punted Sergio, and then Sergio went on to win the race. Like, yeah, I mean, I think those kind of instances where Charles will get in an accident and then Carlos will hoover up some points for Ferrari, you know. That's what I think. But anyway, can Russell score points? I'd love to say yes, but I think that was a huge opportunity last week, and apparently they're calling it the £2 million accident because the amount of damage it did to both cars, which was, yeah, is what it is, isn't it? Look, again, George has got that. A lot of these, we saw it with the whole Crashthappen years, you know? That was a meme for a while. People we knew Max had the raw pace, but his decision-making at times wasn't great. And all drivers go through this, you know? Lewis, when he was young and on the come-up, he always had that pace straight away. But sometimes his decision-making... To be fair, though, Lewis is a bad example, because I think as much as his decision-making at times wasn't great, it wasn't to the same extent as most other rookies when they first come into the sport, you know. Does Vettel make it through the season? I think not. No, he's not going to get dropped. No way. That's never going to happen. Absolutely never. Never. Not a chance. Is this weekend the beginning of Danny Rick's McLaren legacy? Aussie, I'd love to say yes, but I don't think so. I still think we need to give Daniel a few more races. Portimao's a tricky track. It's a difficult track. It's going to take him some time. He's still getting used to the car, so, you know, It'll come good. Thank you, Matthew De Paula, for the $3.99 USD. Thanks for adding to my F1 experience from the USA. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, mate. Thank you. I'm doing this for free. You're giving me money. Thank you. Nah, cheers, mate. Appreciate it. Big up Miami. 2 American races from next year. Love it. Will Kimi retire this year? So this is something interesting. So in the what was it? Something on Twitter, was it? I think it was on Twitter. Someone said that I didn't realise this. So apparently, Kimi part owns that Alfa Romeo, Sauber, Orlen, whatever team. Can anyone back? Apparently, they were talking about it in practice, the commentary. Kimi actually has part ownership of that team, which means that Kimi can just basically he gets to decide when he leaves or not. Can anyone else clarify that? But apparently he's like owned the team. He had part ownership of the team. I don't know what percentage or whatever. It must be substantial. Is it 10%? 50%? I think that's 50. Surely not. But I had no idea. But apparently he does. So that's why Kimi can just be like, it's just a hobby. I'll just leave when I want because I own you. Is it kind of like and I did my little April Fools around like Alonso has become team principal. Do you reckon Kimi pulls rank sometimes to Giovinazzi? Like technically, Antonio, I'm kind of like your boss, mate. So let me get the points. All right. I'm not doing an American accent, no chance. But I would be interested to know what percentage he owns because, as always in YouTube chat, everyone's giving me different numbers. So. Yeah. Thank you, Big Ape, as well for the $1.99, mate. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right. Any more questions, and I'll wrap up. Any more? Get a couple more in before we go. Hello, Minton. Hello, buddy. Good lad. Do we? Great meme. Do I like prawns? I like the small ones though that you get in like where they're in the kind of like liquid. Yummy. But Aston Martin. Nah, can't say it. Oh yeah, fantasy team. Actually, yeah. We'll wrap up, and I'll flex my terrible fantasy team. Okay. So here we go. Oh, it's not telling me how many. All right, hang on. Let's open up my league. If you haven't joined my league, then join my league. I'll put a link to it. Hang on. I'll put the league code in the chat. So if you want to join my fantasy league, that's the code. I'll just put it in chat. Hang on. So yeah, if I drag this on here now, you should be able to see what I can see. Beautiful. Thank you, Robert Parker, for the $1.99, mate. Very kind of you. Much appreciated. So this is my team. There's the sound effect. 5 seconds is a yoke. I don't want to see these ads. Right, here we go. That's my team as it stands. Do I keep Pierre? Because if I'd had Lando as turbo driver for these first two races, I'd be flying. I would be flying. But my team has gained value. Yeah, look, 100.7 million. So technically, this is an impossible team right now. I'm pretty happy with this team. I think it's a solid team. There's points everywhere. That's what I mean. Like, so sometimes you'd be like, oh, you stick a Schumacher in because he's cheap or whatever. But there's no points. Whereas there's points everywhere here. All over the gaff. Thank you, Alex Gonzalez, as well for the $3. Almost said euros, mate. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I think this is a pretty decent team. I think it's alright. But no, I'm comfortable with what I've got here. I'm happy with my team. But Red Bull will come good, I'm sure. But anyway, right, everyone, thank you all for watching. I'm going to wrap it up now. Pleasure as always. Obviously, I will be back kind of... What time does qualifying start tomorrow? Like 3 o'clock? What's this in my hand? It's just the lens cap for my camera. I'll be back tomorrow for the qualifying stream. I'll kick that off 15 minutes before qualifying starts, which is what I typically do. So I will get that live set up tonight. And then, yeah, I will see you all then. So thank you all again for watching. Thank you to everyone who gave me a little bit of moolah. I do appreciate it. You're far too kind to me. And yeah, make sure you put the code in with like lowercase as well. Instead of, I think that makes a difference on Fantasy League for some reason. But yeah, be kind, be happy, be good, be safe. I will see you all tomorrow. And I do not vape. Sorry, Fashion Pal, I don't vape. But yeah, have a good day. Cheers, everyone. Pleasure as always. Goodbye. I'm done. Adios.